مساء الخير وأهلا بكم إلى حلقة جديدة من واشنطن أونلاين. معي أنا هدي العويس على نورث بريس. وزير الخارجية التركي مولود تشاويش أوغلو في واشنطن، والملف السوري في واجهة الملفات ذات الاهتمام المشترك بين البلدين. فما هي رسائل واشنطن لتركيا فيما يتعلق بالعمل العسكري التركي في الشمال السوري وبخطوات التطبيع بين أنقرة ودمشق؟ هذا ما نبحثه في حلقة اليوم من واشنطن أونلاين. وضيوفي لهذه الحلقة هما السيد جاريد موريس، الضابط السابق في التحالف الدولي لمكافحة تنظيم داعش، ينضم إلينا من فيرجينيا. ابقوا معنا لمتابعة هذه الحلقة. وأبدأ هذه الحلقة بالترحيب بضيفي السيد جاريد موريس، المسؤول السابق في التحالف الدولي لمقاتلة تنظيم داعش. أهلا وسهلا بك سيد موريس. إذن وزير الخارجية التركي مولود تشاويش أوغلو كان هنا في العاصمة واشنطن. الطلبات التركية من أمريكا كثيرة، في مقدمتها مقاتلات F-16 التي لم يحسم أمرها بعد، ولكن هناك أيضا حديث عن مطالب تركية متعلقة بعمل عسكري تركي محتمل في الشمال السوري. هل كان هناك أي رد أمريكي واضح باعتقادك على الجانب التركي فيما يتعلق بما تسميه تركيا مخاوفها الأمنية على حدودها مع سوريا؟
Yeah, you made quite a few great mentions there. There's so much to talk about regarding Syria, the Turkish foreign minister's visit to Washington yesterday, Turkey's desire to purchase F-16s from the U.S. government, and the potential normalization of relations between Turkey and the Assad regime. So I'll start with yesterday's meeting between the Turkish foreign minister and Secretary Blinken in Washington, D.C. Based on the readout of what we've seen from the meeting, it doesn't appear that there is any groundbreaking developments, any strong agreements moving forward, or they would have had that to announce yesterday. All that really came out of the meeting was a reconfirmation of the relationship, a reconfirmation that we're allies, and that there is more work to do. We know that the Turkish foreign minister had the sale of F-16s really high on his priority list, but no groundbreaking announcement was made yesterday. We have seen in the U.S. Congress that there is strong opposition to the U.S. selling F-16s to Turkey. We have seen Turkey commit aggressions across the region. They continue to threaten NATO ally Greece. President Erdogan has made statements threatening Athens with ballistic missiles. We have seen Turkey continue to conduct airstrikes against civilians and civilian infrastructure in northern Syria and northern Iraq. And on the topic of Ukraine and the support that Turkey has provided in the war between Russia and Ukraine, it appears that many of the support that Turkey has provided may be mostly cosmetic in nature, not really have shaped or changed much regarding operations that are actually happening on the ground in Ukraine. So there's a lot to think about, but there's not really much progress, I think, between the relationship between Washington and Turkey from yesterday.
نعم، كان هناك عودة لهجمات الدرونز، المسيرات التركية لشمال السوري، مناطق سيطرة قوات سوريا الديمقراطية. هل مسألة إعطاء ضوء أخضر أو منع عمل عسكري تركي في الشمال السوري هو بيد الجانب الأمريكي؟ وبالنظر اليوم إلى الظروف الداخلية في واشنطن، هل تعتقد أن إدارة جو بايدن ستمنح تركيا القدرة على شن عمل عسكري جديد؟
Yes, well, we have not seen any indication that the U.S. has provided a green light to Turkey in any way to conduct military operations in northern Syria. Turkey has not stopped conducting airstrikes against civilians and civilian infrastructure. They've been doing this for quite some time. And so I think that's a continuation of what they've already been doing. I do not see currently a new military operation developing on the Turkish border, where Turkey will threaten another incursion into northern Syria, at least not right now. You know, perhaps in the future, weeks or months ahead, but that could be some time. Really, Turkey needs approval from someone, from another actor in Syria, to go ahead with a new operation, whether that is approval from Russia or approval from the Assad regime. And it's very unlikely that they would get approval from the United States for any kind of operation that would disrupt the fight against ISIS.
نعم سيد جارد، ربما أبرز حدث سياسي على الساحة السورية اليوم هو خطوات التطبيع بين أنقرة ودمشق. هل هذا أمر يزعج إدارة جو بايدن لدرجة أن تقوم إدارة جو بايدن بإعادة صياغة سياستها تجاه الملف السوري بالقيام بخطوات فعلية على أرض الواقع لمنع هذا التطبيع بين البلدين؟
I do think that the U.S. has been very clear that they do not support any country normalizing relations with the Assad government or any attempt to rehabilitate Assad's image or express any kind of support for the Assad regime whatsoever. The U.S. continues to make clear that UN Security Council Resolution 2254 is the roadmap to peace for Syria. It gives the Syrian people a way to decide the future of Syria, and it outlines the need for a political transition for Assad to leave power. So the U.S. does stand firm in that commitment to 2254, and any other normalization of the Assad regime by countries could disrupt U.S. efforts in northeast Syria to conduct the fight against ISIS, to work with the SDF, and really it could cause a lot of other problems for the U.S. in northern Syria.
يعني فعلا من خلال البيانات، من خلال التصريحات الأمريكية، نعرف أن واشنطن لا تريد تطبيع مع دمشق دون عملية انتقال سياسي، ولكن هل هناك ما هو أبعد من البيانات، ما هو أبعد من التصريحات يعني بيد إدارة بايدن أن تفعله لمنع هذا التطبيع؟ لأننا أيضا سمعنا ممانعة أمريكية في الماضي للتطبيع بين أبو ظبي ودمشق، ولكن هذا لم يوقف قطار التطبيع ولم يثني أبو ظبي عن إعادة علاقاتها مع دمشق. هل نرى خطوات من قبيل مثلا تطبيق عقوبات على كيانات تركية أو حتى كيانات إماراتية تعيد اليوم خطوط التواصل مع دمشق؟
Look, well, I think that you said it correctly. It remains to be seen what action the U.S. is actually willing to take to prevent countries from normalizing relations with Assad. Any kind of sanctions, of course, that would have to be worked through Congress. So there would have to be U.S. congressional support for creating new sanctions against people or countries. And so it's really uncertain. But the U.S., if they do not act, if an attempt is made to normalize relations with Assad, then the U.S. could find itself squeezed out of northern Syria. It could find the mission against ISIS disrupted. It could find a new Turkish military operation against the YPG and the SDF in northern Syria. It would leave all of the ISIS prisoners and ISIS families that the SDF are currently guarding in northern Syria. It would leave them in limbo if the SDF had to go and defend themselves instead of protecting or safeguarding those ISIS prisoners and ISIS family members. It could cause Turkey to return at least 1 million refugees into Syria, and Syria is not prepared to receive 1 million refugees returned to their land. They cannot support them economically. They cannot provide for their security or their safety. And also, as we saw last time Turkey conducted an incursion into northern Syria, if they conducted another military operation that resulted from normalization of relations with Assad, that could displace a large population of Kurds and other ethnic and religious minorities that live in northern Syria along the border. So I think that The U.S. is very aware of the threat that is posed by the normalization of relations between Turkey and the Assad regime or any other country in the Assad regime, and how that would limit U.S. influence in the country. And so I think that our um, foreign policy experts and our diplomats are hard at work in figuring out what a U.S. response could be, what action could actually be taken. But I'm not certain that we have a clear picture of what that looks like just yet.
مؤخرا تم إلغاء أو إرجاء بعض الاجتماعات اللقاءات الثلاثية بين أنقرة موسكو ودمشق. وجاء هذا بعد زيارة وزير الخارجية الإيراني لدمشق من ثم أنقرة. يعني ويبدو وكأن إيران غير راضية عن هذا التطبيع السوري التركي على الأقل بشروطه الحالية. ما هي وجهة النظر الإيرانية من وجهة نظرك تجاه هذه المتغيرات في الملف السوري؟
I think we all saw that Iran felt left out of the meeting in Moscow between Turkey and the Assad regime and Moscow. They felt that they should have had a seat at that table. So I think what we're seeing right now from Iran is potentially a move to insert itself into the normalization process between Turkey and Syria. We know that the Syrian economy is not doing well and needs help, and that could be a way that Iran is attempting to shape any outcome of normalization with Assad. And we know that if there is normalization between Turkey and Assad or other countries, and the U.S. was squeezed out of Syria, then that would also open the door for increased Iranian influence in Syria. So that is also something that the U.S. should think about.
نعم، شكرا جزيلا لك ضيفي السيد جاريد موريس المسؤول السابق في التحالف الدولي لمقاتلة تنظيم داعش. كنت معنا من فيرجينيا. وختاما شكرا لكل من تابع حلقة واشنطن أونلاين. ألقاكم في حلقة جديدة الأسبوع المقبل. إلى اللقاء.